The message came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Every phone, every computer, every display showed the same thing. An alien face appeared, cold and made of crystal, that caught the light in strange ways. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center on the moon. He watched the hologram flicker to life. The alien called itself Ambassador Zelthuan. Its voice was flat and carried the tone of someone used to being obeyed. People of Earth, you have broken our laws. You built colonies on 3 worlds that belong to council members. You have 48 hours to leave those worlds. Destroy everything you built there. If you do not obey, we will punish you. Jake felt his jaw tighten. He looked at Commander Lisa Hayes standing next to him. Her eyes showed the same anger he felt. Humanity had checked every map, every chart they bought from the council. Those worlds were listed as empty, available for anyone to settle. Now, the council said, humans were trespassing. They set us up. Lisa said quietly. They sold us fake information. Let us build homes and lives there. Now they're using it as an excuse. The alien kept talking. All Earth military ships must go back past your solar system. Stop building new ships. We will review your military later. If you refuse, we will consider it an act of war against 17 civilizations. Jake pulled up the tactical screen. 3 colonies glowed on the map. New Austin had 47,000 people. Hope's Landing had 31,000. Terra Verde, the newest, had 18,000. Families lived there. Children. People who left Earth, looking for a better life among the stars. Get President Clark on the line, Jake ordered, and start running every war scenario we have. An hour later, the United Earth Council met in emergency session. President Henry Clark stood before them. He used to be a Marine. He led the first colony ship to Proxima years ago. He knew what it meant to leave Earth behind. We didn't travel across space to bow to threats, Clark said. His voice was steady and strong. Those colonists are Earth citizens. Those worlds were settled legally according to the Council's own rules. If this is how they do business, they need to learn that humans don't scare easy. Every member voted the same way. Earth would not comply. The Council's answer came 12 hours later. Not the 48 hours they promised. Just 12. Ships appeared in the Kepler 442 system. Alien warships with weapons ready. They gave one last warning, then opened fire on New Austin's orbital platform. The colony's satellites fought back. They destroyed 2 enemy ships before being overwhelmed. Then, the bombardment started. Jake watched the video feed from a surveillance drone. The aliens didn't try to kill everyone. Not yet. They hit the power plants, the water systems, the communication towers. They wanted to make a point. Show Earth what would happen if they didn't obey. When the attack ended, New Austin went dark. No power, no water, no way to call for help. 47,000 people trapped on the surface with limited supplies. Lisa pulled up intelligence reports. Sir, Council fleets are moving into position around Hope's Landing and Terra Verde too. They plan to surround them. Cut them off. Starve them until they surrender. Jake's hands gripped the edge of the table. The Council thought they understood humans. They believed, faced with the slow death of their colonies, Earth would give up. Submit to Council authority. They were wrong. Lisa, Jake said quietly. Activate the Lancer protocol. Authorization. Morrison. Delta 7. Her eyes went wide. Sir, that's experimental. We've never used them in real combat. The Council wants to make an example of us, Jake said. Let's make sure the lesson goes the other way. Contact Captain Ryan Cole on the Valiant. Tell him, it's time. Across human space, warships began powering up. Ships the Council thought were simple patrol craft. ships that looked weak and outdated. But inside them were weapons systems that shouldn't exist, drive systems that broke every law of physics the Council knew. In the deep black between stars, humanity prepared for war. The Council had made their calculations. They assumed humans were weak, young, easily frightened. They assumed wrong. Admiral Jake Morrison looked at the star map showing Council fleet positions. 93 ships surrounding human colonies. Threatening families. Threatening children. Send the signal, he ordered. All Lancer units, go to war footing. Show them what happens when you threaten our people. The message went out across encrypted channels. 12 ships received it. 12 captains who volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come back, but also knowing that sometimes you have to fight for what matters. Captain Ryan Cole received the message aboard the Valiant. He looked at his crew, saw their determined faces. They were ready. Navigation, plot jump coordinates, Ryan ordered. Target, the Kepler 442 system. Right in the middle of their fleet. His navigator looked up, surprised. Sir, that's suicide. They have over 90 ships there. Sir. Ryan smiled. A cold smile. They have 90 ships expecting a conventional fight. We're about to show them there's nothing conventional about humanity. The Valiant's experimental fold drive began charging. Around it, space itself started to bend. In 60 seconds, they would jump 300 light-years in an instant. They would appear in the heart of the enemy fleet. And then the Council would learn why you should never threaten the children of Earth. Jake watched the countdown timer. 45 seconds until the Valiant jumped. 45 seconds until everything changed. God help them, Lisa whispered. They have no idea what's coming. No, Jake agreed. They really don't. The timer hit 0. Across the galaxy, 12 human warships vanished from their positions. And in the Kepler 442 system, the Council was about to receive an education in why humanity had survived every threat their homeworld threw at them. Because humans didn't just survive. They fought back. And when you threatened their families, they fought with everything they had. Captain Ryan Cole studied the tactical display on the bridge of the Valiant. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Their faces glowed in the soft light from the screens. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually. They had trained for it. Now it was real. Jump coordinates locked, Lieutenant Amy Chen reported from the navigation station. Will appear 3 light seconds from their flagship. Right in the center of their formation. Ryan nodded. The Valiant looked like a normal frigate from the outside. Maybe 400 meters long. Standard weapons. Standard engines. That's what the Council believed. They had no idea what she really was. Engineering? Status on the fold drive? Ryan asked. Chief Engineer Pete Harris answered from below. Reactor stable. Fold matrix charged and ready. We're good to go, Captain. The fold drive was humanity's biggest secret. The Council used jump gates that took weeks to travel between star systems. Humans found something better. They learned to fold space itself. Travel anywhere instantly. The prototype was tested 4 times before this. This would be the first time in actual combat. All Lancer units. This is Valiant. Ryan spoke into the comm. We jump in 90 seconds. Remember your training. Hit them hard and fast. Show them what happens when they threaten our families. His screen showed acknowledgements from 11 other ships. The Defiant, under Captain Laura Price. The Resolute, with Commander Nick Stone. 10 more ships. All volunteers who knew the odds. 60 seconds remained. Ryan thought about New Austin. About families hiding in emergency shelters. Children crying in the dark because aliens turned off their power. The Council thought this would break humanity. They didn't understand what they had done. 30 seconds. The enemy flagship appeared on the screen. The Eternal Radiance. 2 kilometers long. 300 years old. It had conquered a dozen species. Its shields could survive attacks from entire fleets. Its weapons could burn whole planets. But it never faced anything like the Valiant. 10 seconds. The fold matrix hummed. Reality started bending around the ship. Ryan felt it in his chest, like standing at the edge of a cliff. 5, 4, 3, 2, jump, Ryan ordered. The universe twisted. One moment, the Valiant floated at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The next moment, she appeared right next to the Eternal Radiance. No warning. No time for the enemy to react. "Weapons free!" Ryan shouted. "All batteries! Fire!" The Valiant unleashed everything. Her railguns fired tungsten rounds at 15% of light speed. The Council didn't think that was possible. At that speed, even small projectiles hit like nuclear bombs. The first shots hit a Mendari dreadnought before its shields even turned on. The rounds punched through the hull like paper. The kinetic energy turned to heat so intense that half the ship just vaporized. Explosions ripped through what remained. 11 more targets locked, Amy reported. Her voice stayed calm despite the chaos. Lancer Group has arrived. Formation holding. On the screen, Ryan watched the rest of his fleet appear. 12 human ships against 93 alien vessels. On paper, it looked like suicide. But humanity didn't care about paper. The Defiant targeted the Eternal Radiance directly. Particle beams, focused into thin streams of superheated plasma, hit the flagship's shields at precise points. The shields failed in those spots. Laura's railguns fired through the holes, slamming into the engine section. The great ship shuddered. Emergency alarms wailed across all Council frequencies. Ambassador Zelthun's voice crackled, full of shock. "Impossible. They have no fold capability. How did they appear here without warning? How are they moving so fast?" The transmission cut off as the Resolute's missiles found the command tower. The explosion lit up space. "Valiant, multiple enemy vessels trying to target us." Lieutenant Sam Brooks called from Tactical. "But they can't track us. We're moving too fast for their systems." Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Council ships were powerful but slow, built for long-range battles that lasted days. Human ships were built for close combat, for overwhelming speed and violence, for warfighting methods developed by a species that spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. Helm, evasive pattern Delta 7. Keep us moving fast. Navigation. Prepare calculations for the next jump. The battle lasted 17 minutes. By the time the Council forces organized a response, they had lost 26 ships. The Eternal Radiance drifted, crippled, and leaking atmosphere into space. The siege was broken. Ryan opened a channel to New Austin's emergency frequency. "New Austin Colony, this is Captain Cole of the Valiant. Relief ships are coming with supplies and repair equipment. The siege is over. Hold on down there. Earth hasn't forgotten you." The response came back weak but clear. "Valiant, this is New Austin. We knew you'd come. Thank you." Around the battlefield, Council ships began retreating. They jumped away in groups, fleeing to safe distance. They left behind wreckage and bodies. They left behind their certainty that humanity was weak. Ryan pulled up the next set of coordinates. "All Lancer units, form up. Next target is Proxima Centauri. Hope's Landing needs us." "Sir," Amy said quietly, "we just took on 93 ships with 12. And we won. They're going to be terrified." "So, good," Ryan replied. "Fear might make them think twice before bombing any more civilians." The Council wanted a war. They wanted to show us they were strong. Now, they know the truth. "What truth is that, sir?" asked Pete from engineering. Ryan looked at the image of New Austin on his screen. The colony's lights were coming back on as emergency teams restored power. Children would sleep safely tonight. Families would have water and heat. "That you can have all the ancient wisdom and advanced technology you want," Ryan said, "but nothing beats the fury of a species protecting its young." We didn't start this fight, but we're sure as hell going to finish it. The 12 ships of the Lancer fleet formed up, their fold drives charged. Space bent around them. All ships, jump on my mark, Ryan ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The fleet vanished, heading for Proxima Centauri, heading for another council siege, another group of human families waiting for rescue. Behind them, in the wreckage of the Kepler 442 battle, council survivors sent desperate messages back to their headquarters. Messages full of fear and confusion. Messages that carried a warning the council should have heeded before they started this. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not afraid. And humanity would protect its own, no matter the cost. The eternal radiance listed in space, its command deck exposed to vacuum, its engines silent. 300 years of conquering other species ended in 17 minutes. Ended by a species the council thought was primitive and easily controlled. Admiral Krell of the Kraloth military reviewed the battle recordings from his command ship, safe in another system. He watched the human ships appear from nowhere. Watched them move with impossible agility. Watched his fleet torn apart. He composed a message to Premier Counselor Vox Ryan. Just 3 words. We were wrong. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Sovereign Council had stood for 11,000 years. Its crystal walls reflected light from 1,000 stars. Its archives held the wisdom of 17 civilizations, species who mastered space travel when humans were still learning to make fire. None of that mattered now. Premier Counselor Vox Ryan slammed his clawed hand on the table, his reptilian face twisted with rage. Explain to me how a species that only achieved faster than light travel 40 years ago just destroyed our 4th fleet. The chamber erupted in chaos. 17 species, each certain of their superiority. Each convinced the newest members of the galaxy would obey when confronted with real power. Now, they faced something they couldn't understand. Ambassador Zelthun appeared via hologram from his medical facility. They have technology we didn't know existed. Their ships appear without warning, strike with incredible precision, then vanish before we can fight back. Our intelligence was completely wrong. Your intelligence was bought from them. Counselor Mixandra snarled. Her 4 eyes blazed with anger. They sold us outdated scout data while building weapons that make our best ships look like trash. Admiral Krell brought up tactical recordings. The assembled counselors watched in silence as the Battle of Kepler 442 played out. 12 human ships appeared from nothing, moved with impossible speed, tore through vessels that had conquered worlds. Stop the image, Vox Ryan ordered. The screen froze on the Valiant. Her hull perfect, despite flying through plasma fire from dozens of ships. Show me the sensor readings. The data appeared. The chamber went completely silent. That's impossible, whispered Tech Overseer Queln. Those power readings violate basic physics. The reactor output compared to ship size makes no sense, and those weapons should tear the ship apart from recoil alone. Unless, Zelthun said quietly, they developed inertial dampening beyond anything we imagined. Unless everything we thought we knew about human technology was deliberately fed to us by their spies. The weight of that realization settled over the chamber. Counselor Yiren thus activated her platform. Her species had been traveling the stars for 15,000 years. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. Her voice carried the weight of ages. We made assumptions. We saw a young species, divided and fighting among themselves, and thought them weak. We forgot the most important lesson history teaches, which is, Vox Ryan demanded, never mistake youth for weakness. Never think internal conflict means inability to unite against external threats. These humans spent their entire history fighting each other with increasing sophistication. They didn't evolve on a world with huge predators like the Kraloth. They didn't develop hive minds like the Mendari. They evolved, competing with each other. Every advance in their technology was immediately weaponized. Every war taught them new lessons. Yiren thus pulled up Earth's history files. Data humanity shared freely during first contact. In just 100 years, they went from primitive aircraft to splitting atoms. 30 years later, they had weapons that could destroy their own planet. They developed concepts like mutually assured destruction while still trapped on one world. And we thought threatening them would make them surrender? She paused, letting the question hang. We didn't provoke a civilized species into reluctant war. We activated every evolutionary trigger that made them the dominant species on their planet. We threatened their families, their children. We gave them a clear enemy and a righteous cause. New reports flooded in. The siege at Proxima Centauri was shattered. 23 council ships destroyed. 8 captured with crews rescued before anyone could respond. At Terra Verde, the battle lasted 9 minutes. The council's 7th strike group simply ceased to exist. Military assessment, Vox Ryan ordered. His voice was hollow. Current projections for this conflict. Admiral Krell pulled up strategic displays. Red markers showed council fleet positions. Blue markers showed confirmed human vessels. But around each blue marker was a huge probability cloud showing where human ships could potentially appear. We can't defend against an enemy that can appear anywhere without warning, Krell admitted. Traditional tactics are useless. They can strike our supply lines, our shipyards, our home systems. We'd have no warning. Our numerical advantage means nothing if we can't bring it to bear. Then we escalate, Mixandra hissed. We have planet destroyers. World crackers. We make Earth itself the target. Surely they won't sacrifice their homeworld. The chamber went silent. It was the ultimate threat. The weapon no council member had used in 4,000 years. Yuren thus laughed bitterly. You still don't understand. These people invented the concept of scorched Earth before they left their planet. They have a military doctrine called mutually assured destruction that they were prepared to use against themselves. If you threaten Earth, they won't surrender. They'll make sure every council world burns with them. So what do you suggest? Vox Ryan demanded. We just accept that we were wrong? Apologize and hope they're merciful? No, said a new voice. Every counselor turned to the entrance. A human figure stood there. Not a hologram. Not a transmission. Actually physically present, having somehow bypassed every security system in the most protected facility in the galaxy. Colonel Kate Morrison walked calmly into the chamber. She wore the dress uniform of the United Earth Forces. She moved with the easy confidence of someone holding all the winning cards. You don't apologize, Kate said. Her voice was clear and cold. You negotiate, and you do it now, before this gets worse for everyone. My government sent me with terms. You're going to want to hear them. She activated her own display. It showed real-time locations of council military assets. Information that should have been impossible for her to possess. Secrets that were supposed to be completely secure. Because in 12 hours, Kate continued, if we haven't reached an agreement, every council shipyard, weapons platform, and command station is going to have a very bad day. We've already plotted the strikes. The ships are in position. All they need is my signal. She looked at each counselor in turn. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit down with me. You're going to listen to our terms. And you're going to accept them. Because the alternative is a war you cannot win. A war that will cost millions of lives on both sides. Vox Ryan stared at her. This human, this representative of a species they had dismissed as primitive, had just walked into their most secure location and delivered an ultimatum. How did you get in here? He finally asked. Kate smiled. The same way our ships appear in the middle of your fleets. We've been ahead of you technologically for 15 years. We just didn't advertise it. When you're the new species in a galaxy full of old powers, you learn to keep your advantages secret. You deceived us, Zelthun said. We protected ourselves, Kate corrected. You approached Earth with trade agreements and cultural exchange programs, all while your intelligence services assessed whether we were a threat or a resource to exploit. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? That we wouldn't prepare? She pulled up more data. Communications intercepts. Evidence of council plots to manipulate Earth's economy. Plans to create dependency on council technology. Schemes to engineer exactly the kind of crisis that had just occurred. You falsified star charts, Kate said. Sold us colonization rights to worlds you intended to claim later. Created a pretext for intervention. You calculated that we'd surrender rather than fight. That you could force Earth into being your client state without firing a shot. And when we didn't cooperate, you bombed civilians. Silence filled the chamber. So now we talk, Kate said. On equal terms. As powers that respect each other. Or we fight until one side can't fight anymore. Your choice, counselors. But choose quickly. My patience has limits. And so does my government's mercy. The negotiation chamber was smaller than the grand chamber. Designed for private talks rather than grand speeches. Kate Morrison sat across from 5 counselors, chosen to represent the council's interests. Premier Counselor Vox Ryan studied the human with barely hidden frustration. You walked into the most secure facility in the galaxy. How? Kate smiled. The same way our ships appear in your fleets. We've been ahead of you technologically for 15 years. We just kept it quiet. When you're the new species surrounded by old powers, you learn to keep secrets. You lied to us, Zelthun said. His crystalline features flickered with anger. We protected ourselves, Kate corrected. You came to Earth talking about trade and friendship, all while your spies assessed whether we were a threat or something to be used. Did you think we wouldn't notice? That we wouldn't prepare? She brought up documentation. Communications intercepts that made several counselors shift uncomfortably. Evidence of council plots to control Earth's economy. Plans to make humanity dependent on council technology. Schemes to create situations exactly like the colony crisis. You sold us fake star charts, Kate continued. Her voice hardened. You gave us colonization rights to worlds you planned to claim later. Created an excuse for intervention. You calculated that we'd surrender rather than fight. That you could force Earth into client status without firing a shot. And when we didn't cooperate, you bombed our civilians. Those were precision strikes on infrastructure only, Mixandra protested. There were children in those colonies. Kate said quietly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Families who did nothing except believe the laws you published. You turned off their life support and expected their parents to beg for mercy. Instead, you learned what humans do when you threaten our children. Yiren thus, the oldest counselor, studied Kate with ancient eyes. What does Earth want, Colonel Morrison? Your fleet has shown it could potentially destroy our military. You could demand tribute, territory, subjugation. What are your terms? Kate took a breath. This was the critical moment. Earth's leadership debated for days about what to demand. Some wanted punishment, revenge, humiliation for the Council. Others counseled restraint. President Clark made the final decision himself. First, Kate said, immediate withdrawal of all Council forces from Earth-claimed systems. Our colonies are recognized as sovereign human territory, with the same rights given to Council member worlds. Agreed, Vox Ryan said immediately. The Council couldn't defend those systems anyway. Not against ships that appeared without warning. Second, full access to real star charts and Council databases. No more information games. If we're going to coexist in this galaxy, it needs to be based on honesty. The counselors exchanged glances. That would expose thousands of years of Council politics. Things they'd rather keep hidden. But they nodded. Third, trade relationships will be renegotiated on equal terms. Earth is not a client state. We're an independent power. Treat us as such. The Council has never dealt with such demands from a new species, Mixandra began. The Council has never dealt with humans before, Kate interrupted. You're learning. These terms are not negotiable. Yuren thus raised a hand, stopping Mixandra's angry response. Continue, Colonel. Fourth, and this is important. No retaliation. No covert operations. No attempts to undermine Earth's interests. We'll know if you try, and we'll respond accordingly. Is that a threat? Voxrian asked. It's a promise, Kate replied. But here's what you need to understand. Earth doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want your territory or your resources. We just want to be left alone to grow, to explore, to build our future on our terms. She leaned forward. But if you force us to fight, we will. And we'll win. Because while you've spent 10,000 years maintaining the status quo, we've spent our entire existence adapting, innovating, and surviving. You evolved on worlds that provided what you needed. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. There's a difference. The chamber was silent. Finally, Yuren thus spoke. You mentioned 4 terms. Is there a 5th? AET. Kate nodded slowly. Yes. And this one isn't a demand. It's an offer. She changed the display to show a star map with neutral zones marked. The galaxy is huge. Really huge. There are regions none of you have fully explored. Systems that could support life. Resources that could benefit everyone. Earth proposes a joint exploration initiative. Council, species, and humans. Working together, sharing discoveries equally. Why? Zelthun asked, genuinely confused. After what we did, why offer cooperation? Because holding grudges is expensive, Kate said simply. Because humanity learned the hard way that eternal enemies drain resources and kill the future. We fought 2 world wars before we figured out that cooperation builds more than conflict ever destroys. You made a mistake. You underestimated us and paid the price. But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies forever. She stood and walked to the window, showing stars beyond. Out there are probably threats none of us have encountered yet. Challenges we don't understand. Problems that might require all of us working together. Wouldn't it be better to build that cooperation now? Voluntarily? Rather than wait for crisis to force it? Admiral Krell, silent until now, spoke up. You're offering forgiveness? Just like that? Not forgiveness, Kate corrected. We'll remember what you did. The people who died. The families that suffered. But we're offering a chance to move forward. To build something better than endless cycles of revenge. Vox Ryan looked at his fellow counselors. He saw relief and shame on their faces. They expected demands for subjugation, for revenge. Instead, they were offered partnership. The council will need time to deliberate, he said finally. But speaking personally, I believe your terms are more than fair. More generous than we deserve. You're probably right, Kate agreed. But deserving has nothing to do with it. This is about what works. What builds a future, instead of burning it down. She moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. That shipyard strike I mentioned? Consider it canceled, as a gesture of good faith. But my brother is still out there with the Lancer fleet. He's very protective of those colonies. I'd suggest any council ships in those systems make their peaceful intentions extremely clear. Kate left the counselors to their discussions. She walked through corridors that had stood for millennia, knowing that everything had changed. Behind her, Yuren thus spoke softly to her colleagues. They came to the stars, carrying both the sword and the olive branch, ready to use whichever we forced them to choose. We're fortunate they're wiser than we were. Vox Ryan nodded slowly. Contact all council fleets. Order immediate withdrawal from human space, and prepare a formal response to their terms. We'll accept them. All of them. What about the other council members? Mixandra asked. Some will see this as weakness. Then they're fools, Weirin thus replied. The humans defeated us militarily and offered peace anyway. That kind of restraint is rare enough to be worth more than pride. We provoked them. We threatened their families. We bombed their civilians. And still they offer partnership instead of revenge. She looked at each counselor in turn. We have a choice. We can accept their terms and build something new. Or we can let pride drive us to a war we cannot win. I know which choice wisdom demands. The vote was unanimous. The council would accept Earth's terms. The war, barely begun, was over. But the real work, building trust between species that had started as enemies, was just beginning. 6 months after the Kepler 442 incident, the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Gateway Station. The massive orbital facility floated at a neutral point between Council and Earth-controlled space. It was a joint construction project. Engineers from 8 different species worked alongside human designers to build it. The station was beautiful and chaotic, a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. "Still can't quite believe it," said a voice beside him. Jake turned to see his sister Kate. She traded her military uniform for diplomatic clothing. Now she served as Earth's ambassador to the Council. Though Jake knew, she still thought like a soldier. "Which part?" Jake asked. "That we almost went to war with the entire galaxy? Or that we're now hosting joint science conferences?" Kate laughed. "Both, I suppose. The counselors are still nervous about our fold drive technology. They keep asking when we'll share the specifications. And your answer? The same one we agreed on. When there's enough trust built, that we're certain it won't be immediately weaponized. Technology sharing has to work both ways, based on mutual respect." Through the window, they watched a Velthrian science vessel arrive. Ambassador Zelthuan personally requested to join the joint expedition to the Veil Nebula, a region neither Council nor Earth had explored. It was a gesture of reconciliation that many appreciated. "How are the colonies doing?" Kate asked. "Thriving," Jake reported. "New Austin's infrastructure is fully restored. They're actually ahead of projected population growth. Hope's Landing just launched their first locally built spacecraft, and Terra Verde is exporting agricultural products to 3 Council worlds now. The Council paying fair prices? Better than fair. I think they're still worried we'll change our minds about peace." Kate nodded. It took weeks of careful negotiation to finalize the peace terms. The Council agreed to all of Earth's demands. They went further, offering economic incentives and technology exchanges that surprised even Earth's optimistic diplomats. Yiran thus explained it simply. "You defeated us militarily and offered peace anyway. That kind of restraint is rare, worth investing in. Captain Cole is here," Kate mentioned. "Yeah, he's rotating back to Earth for a month. The Lancer program is expanding. We're building 12 more ships to the same specifications. The Council knows about that? They requested the information themselves," Jake said with a slight smile. "They said they'd feel more secure knowing our defensive capabilities were clearly established. Strange world, when your former enemies want you well armed." An alert chimed on Jake's communicator. "The symposium is starting. Ready to watch humanity's best scientists argue with alien colleagues about quantum mechanics? Wouldn't miss it," Kate replied. They walked to the main auditorium, where scientists from across the galaxy gathered. Dr. Emma Price, from MIT, presented alongside Queln, of the Varthi Union. Their joint paper on exotic matter applications drew intense interest. The questions that followed were heated, but friendly. The kind of intellectual combat that built understanding, rather than destroying it. During a break, Jake noticed Lieutenant Amy Chen from the Valiant talking animatedly with a Kraloth engineer about ship design. 6 months ago, they were shooting at each other. Now they argued about hull configurations like old friends. "It's strange," Jake murmured to Kate. "How fast things change when people choose to change them." "People were always ready," Kate replied. "They just needed the right push. Sometimes it takes a crisis to make peace possible." Across the station, in a private meeting room, Premier Counselor Vox Ryan spoke with President Clark via holographic link. The joint expedition departs in 3 days, Vox Ryan said. 6 council vessels, 4 human ships, and 1 mixed-crew explorer. It's unprecedented. It's necessary, Clark replied. The galaxy is bigger than all of us. Better we explore it together than fight over it separately. Vox Ryan's reptilian features conveyed respect. Your species continues to surprise us, Mr. President. We expected you to be vengeful. To use your victory to dominate. Clark shook his head. We've seen where that road leads, Counselor. Earth's history is full of empires that rose through conquest and fell because they couldn't maintain what they seized. We learned that cooperation outlasts domination. That partners are more valuable than subjects. A lesson we thought we learned millennia ago, Vox Ryan admitted. But somewhere along the way, the Council became more concerned with maintaining power than serving purpose. Perhaps your arrival was exactly what we needed. Or maybe, Clark suggested, both our civilizations needed each other. You have the wisdom of ages. We have the innovation of youth. Together, who knows what we might accomplish? After the call ended, Clark stood at his office window in Geneva, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, human and alien crews prepared to venture into the unknown together. Children in council schools learned about Earth history alongside their own. Trade ships moved freely between systems that had been closed for millennia. It wasn't perfect. There were still tensions, still cultural misunderstandings, still moments when old prejudices surfaced. But there was also hope and progress and the slow building of trust. On Gateway Station, the symposium concluded with a joint announcement. The expedition to the Veil Nebula would include a special mission, establishing first contact protocols for any new species they might encounter. Dr. Price and Queln presented the framework together. We've learned, Emma explained, that assumptions are dangerous. That young doesn't mean weak, and old doesn't mean wise. That every species has something valuable to contribute, if we're willing to listen. These protocols, Queln added, represent the combined wisdom of 18 civilizations, including humanity. They emphasize mutual respect, honest exchange, and recognition that conflict, while sometimes inevitable, should never be the first choice. The assembled scientists approved the protocols unanimously. Later that night, Jake found Ryan Cole in an observation lounge, watching the stars. Thinking about the battle? Jake asked, joining him. Ryan shook his head. Thinking about what we almost lost. If either side pushed harder after Kepler 442, we could have burned the galaxy down. But we didn't, because Kate walked into their headquarters and offered peace when we could have demanded surrender. That took more courage than the battle did. Jake nodded slowly. She told me something after the negotiations. Said that any fool can start a war, but it takes wisdom to end one before it consumes everything. They sat in comfortable silence, watching as the joint expedition fleet formed up for departure. Human ships and council vessels moving together, preparing to venture into unknown space. As partners, you know what the council species are calling us? Ryan asked. I've heard a few names, some nice, some not so much. Ryan smiled. The Varthi started calling us the bridge species. They say we're young enough to innovate without being stuck in tradition, but old enough to understand that power without wisdom leads to ruin. Quote, I'll take it, Jake said. His communicator chimed one final time that evening. A message from New Austin Colony. They were dedicating a memorial to the siege. A monument bearing the names of 17 people who died in the bombardment. Below those names would be an inscription visible from orbit. They tried to break us. Instead, they taught us that humanity stands strongest when standing together. We remember the cost. We choose the future. Jake shared the message with Ryan, who read it and nodded slowly. That's going to be our legacy, isn't it? Not the battles or the technology, but the choice we made after victory. If we're lucky, Jake agreed. If we keep choosing it every day. Outside the viewport, the first Joint Council human expedition launched. Their ships accelerated toward the unknown. Behind them, they left a galaxy that learned the hardest lesson in history, that the truly strong don't need to prove strength through domination. That wisdom means choosing peace, even when you could choose war. And that sometimes, the species you underestimate become the ones who teach you what you forgot. The galaxy provoked Earth and regretted it the moment humanity struck back. But they came to celebrate what humanity chose to do next. The future, uncertain and vast and full of possibility, waited for all of them. Together,